Festival. We are thrilled to have you here with us. Before we start, we would just like to go over a couple of things. We would like to request you to keep your microphones off if you are not speaking in order to reduce background noise. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. Also, we would like to ask you if you post on social media about the event to use the hashtags we have been using, which I will share in the chat. And I will also be sharing in the chat our social media and webpage in case you want to follow for future events. Now I would like to present Dr. Ash Pachauri, Senior Mentor of the POP Movement, who will give the introduction for the session. Thank you, Ash.
Thank you so much, Anna, and a very warm welcome, Mr. Garry Jacobs. We've got Mila, Professor Mila Popovich, and I think we have Miss Ekaterina joining right now. She was having a little trouble with the links so they're working now. We might need to change her name. Okay, I think Drisha, we could change Miss Ekaterina's name to please, because it has Ash, and a warm welcome to all of you. We're so delighted. I just wanted to provide a little bit of an overview to the session. So we're here today to talk about the importance of transformational leadership among youth. I know a subject that is very close to all of our hearts. So thank you for this incredible opportunity. We're so delighted. We'd like to start the session with a video that His Excellency Dr. José Ramos-Horta, former president of East Timor and Nobel Peace Prize winner from 1996, has to share. It's an important message that he's sent us, and I'm looking forward to screening that for you. Just to provide a little bit of a brief bio on His Excellency. His Excellency Dr. Ramos-Horta is a Nobel Peace Laureate from 1996 and won the Peace Prize. Won the Peace Prize together for his work toward a just and peaceful solution to conflict in East Timor. Before serving his country as president, Dr. Ramos-Horta was known internationally as a peacemaker. Dr. Ramos-Horta's work in taking his country from devastating conflict to peace and economic growth in just over a decade serves as a model for building democracy in the 21st century. A tremendous testimony to great leadership. And with that, I'm delighted to share this video and a message from His Excellency, Dr. Ramos-Horta. Thank you.
Hello, all of you who are tuning in to this exceptionally important event. Warmest greetings to all of you. I hope wherever you are, stay safe with your closest family, relatives, friends in your communities. I have to start with the good news from my country, Timor-Leste. Right now, we have zero reported infection for the last month now. We do not have a single reported confirmed coronavirus COVID-19 infection. We had 28, of which 24 were imported from Indonesia. Timorese students who were living in Indonesia and in return were diagnosed with COVID-19. Several foreigners, nationalities, all have recovered, confirmed. They have done necessary double tests to confirm that they are negative. We do not have any community transmission, but we are continuing with reasonable, not excessive prevention measures. So far, so good. Zero case in Timor-Leste. Of course, the international media does not report it because the international media, as usual, point to countries like New Zealand and others, Western countries. Only Western countries supposedly know how to do good, and we all miserable, isolated, small island states, we don't know how to look after ourselves. But I have to say, the good news is that we right now have a zero COVID-19 case. The other good news from this part of the world, Timor-Leste, is that we are part of the so-called Coral Triangle. The Coral Triangle comprises Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Malaysia, and the Philippines. More than 100 million people depend on the health of the coral system in the Coral Triangle region for their livelihood. And the good news is Timor-Leste has the healthiest, undamaged, unbleached coral system. In addition to this great news, scientists from Australia and elsewhere have identified Timor-Leste as having the richest biodiversity in the world. We have close to 600 diverse marine life, from corals diversity and dolphins, blue whales. Of course, blue whales, they are migratory species. They come from Antarctica. They travel all along the coast of Western Australia, and they migrate to Timor-Leste in October, November, December. We have a completely unbleached, undamaged corals. Partly has to do with nature. We are situated right in the middle between the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. The Pacific Ocean flow into the Indian Ocean, and the currents of cold water bathe the whole island of Timor-Leste from different sides. So in spite of global warming, we do not have detected any damage as a result of global warming on our corals. Photographers, filmmakers who have been here in recent months, they have reported haven't seen anything like that in the world. Richest biodiversity, undamaged, unbleached coral life. We are a population of a bit over 1.3 million. Timor-Leste is part of the so-called least developed countries. We are part of the so-called fragile states. Timor-Leste, actually, with Sierra Leone, with Liberia, we are the leaders of the G7 plus small fragile countries. And we are doubly impacted by climate change. We are impacted by the global warming, rising sea levels, but also the unpredictable, unstable weather patterns. It can rain in our country, start supposedly October, November, but it can start only in January, this year, and it goes on till May. We still have had very strong rains, which make life difficult for farmers and for fishermen. The connection between the health and the health. When we look, for instance, at the radiation levels as a result of the tsunami in Japan that damaged the Fukushima nuclear powers, it affected, increased the level of radiation in the seas near Japan and beyond. Any dumping of waste, hospital waste dumped by Western countries, particularly from Europe, that collect hospital waste and dump in the Indian Ocean. Cruise ships that dump waste into the vast oceans. plastics that done by many people, including our own, including the hundreds of millions of people in Asia region that purchase plastic, not only plastic bags, but everything that contains plastic, and don't know how to discard, how to recycle, dump in rivers, and the floods come and wash the plastic into the ocean. One immediate consequence, it poison the fish, diminish the livelihood, but also it can poison ourselves, those who consume fish, sea resources. Who are responsible? One thing that is extraordinary, as I sometimes look at the things that we consume. Deodorant, many of us use deodorant. Toothpaste, a toothbrush, a carton of milk or yogurt or anything. We import it from wherever they are manufactured, elsewhere in Asia or in Australia. We import, we pay for it. We even pay for these things. We pay not for the content, but we pay for the container that cover these products. When we finish the product, we use up the toothpaste, the cream. What we do with it? Well, we dump in our own country. So I understand countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, that decide to send back to Canada, to send back to Australia, all the waste that we get. Can you imagine? I cannot understand it. We pay for these damn things. We pay the product, we pay import duties, and then we are the ones who have to live with this product that we pay to you. So I would like to say, please come and collect all your garbage here. If I ever go back to the presidency or to my government, is all garbage that we collect, either someone, a rich Western country foundation, set up here a recycling system so that we can recycle everything and transform it into whatever, into energy or into fertilizers, I don't know. Or, I'm sorry, but we will put on a boat and send back to you. Before I end my contribution today, I would like first to pay tribute to the Pachauri family, to you, Dr. Ash, and your entire family, for continuing the legacy of your father, who started this World Sustainable Development Forum that brings us to discuss, to share ideas about the state of our world. Second, the COVID pandemic that shattered lives around the world. Tens of millions of people have been impoverished, hundreds of millions been impoverished, many hundreds of thousands killed, died. Of this pandemic, this and other pandemics over which we, poor countries, have a little control and a little say. I wish to end by appealing to the rich and the powerful of the world. At least for once, do not be so insensitive, so greedy. Pharmaceutical companies, governments, make sure that any vaccine or cure to prevent coronavirus, COVID-19, it is made available for free First, for the least developed countries, LDCs, for the fragile states, and for developing countries. And maybe in the West, because you are more affluent, maybe your governments can subsidize so that the companies that have invested, produced, may recover some of the investments. But for once in our lifetime, in your lifetime, show wisdom and solidarity. Do not argue over who should have the intellectual property over it and how much to profit from it, but rather how many lives you can save. I thank you, and God bless you all. God bless us all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anna, for screening that, and we convey our deepest gratitude to His Excellency for his message, and we take away the fact that we need to be more empathetic and inclusive in our approaches, especially as we jump into this conversation we're very excited to be engaged in today on transformational leadership. So with that, let's start this important conversation, and I'd like to say that we have the great privilege and good fortune of having three extremely distinguished speakers and experts on this subject of leadership here with us today. Mr. Garry Jacobs, Ms. Ekaterina Zagladina, and Professor Mila Popovich. Thank you very much for being here with us today. What I'd like to say is that we pick up a conversation format for our engagement here today, and we'll have brief interventions by each of our experts, followed by dialogue together with some of the youth that we have present in the room with us today. So with that, big thank you once again, and I'd like to introduce Ms. Ekaterina, who has worked as the president and of the permanent secretariat of the World Summit of Nobel Laureates since 2006, when she was nominated to serve in the role by former USSR President, Nobel Peace Laureate, and founder of the World Summit, Mr. Gorbachev. What I would like to say is, as president of the Permanent Secretariat, her main objectives are to assist Nobel Peace Laureates and organizations spread their message of peace and to inspire extraordinary and ordinary citizens and governments alike to achieve peace through dialogue and understanding. She believes deeply in the ideologies of the Nobel Peace Prize and the mission of the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates. I'd also like to say that I know that Ms. Ekaterina has very, very strong vision and values for compassion, empathy, and equality, as well as inclusiveness in the approaches that she embraces as she leads work in this field. We're very humbled and honored to welcome you, Ms. Ekaterina. Thank you very much, and we look forward to your intervention. I'm unable to, yes, hi, thank you so much once again, and a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash. Warm greetings to you, to your family, to the legacy of your father. He is always in our hearts. And thank you to all who participate in the pop movement and support it. It's a happiness to see that you have this amazing conference throughout many days. I'm sure it has a great energy. I already wrote you about this. So just to tell you about the spirit of my speech today, we strongly believe that any topic related to environment or to peace and environment as part of it has also a very important component of leadership of those who lead these topics. And it has been my dream, by the way, to clarify what the leadership means for ourselves, for our leaders. So now I have had an opportunity to formulate it in a speech. And I won't go deep into the environment topics because I think you have a lot of experts on this. But let's a little bit make a philosophic talk on the leadership. And I invite everyone to just form in his or her own opinion onto this. My speech is only aiming to give ideas and thoughts based on our experience. We know that, of course, promoting the philosophy of nonviolence doesn't mean only to philosophically discuss about the things, but is to provide the concrete tools to the young leaders, to the youth, in order to achieve concrete results. And we think, as the permanent secretariat of the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates, we strongly believe that it can be done through peace education and the promotion of a culture of peace, through the conferences like yours, and where a lot of discussions can take place, and these discussions then materialize. We also are contributing into this through our Leading by Example program. As you know, this is our youth program, which has been integrated in various universities all around the world. And that's why we will make a bit of, as I said, a philosophical talk, which I hope can also bring some tools, or at least to make a focus on some directions where you can find the tools for what the leadership means. First of all, of course, as peace builders, we all, and as present or future leaders, we all assume the commitment to make peace as a way of life, because we all understand that this way can save us from destruction and will lead us to more pure states of consciousness. And I would like to just start from a general definition of the transformational leadership. In my view, transformational leadership shall represent the noblest universal values of humanity, those principles that allow us to have faith not only in a better future, but also in a better present. These are love, wisdom, workmanship, responsibility, compassion, and respect. We have a lot of discussions. The leaders of the future, we shall give everything in the hands of the young people who will build a better future. But frankly speaking, we shall start living better now. So I think what we do now, how we act, what we think affects our present and of course the future. So in my view, transformational leadership is to live spiritually thoroughly now. Understanding that we are transcendent beings and that our thoughts, words, and actions affect our fellow men and women, our environment, and the entire universe from now on and in the future. A transformational leader is a human working for the evolution of our species, not only towards higher levels of physical well-being, but mainly towards an enlightened awareness where love, forgiveness, and oneness can be true. A transformational leader is committing oneself to continue moving along the path that our ancestors traveled and paving the way that our children will walk. Before them, our ancestors and our children, we must be accountable. Because this life, this brief gap between birth and death, is alone from the past and is alone from the future that we must pay with peace actions in the present. Transformational leadership for me also is to understand that all human beings are one and that we are responsible for each other. Besides that, we are also one with all living creatures and with nature who accompany us and sustain us in this vital journey. That is why a transformational leader shall take care of our earth. That is why a transformational leader respects and honors it and all living beings on the earth. The new era is coming, and a lot of obsolete models will fall. The main motto of a transformational leader in the upcoming new era is the inner peace that becomes external peace. It's very important to understand this wording. It's a transformation. It's like chemistry. one shall not fight against, one shall not object. It's a transformation that helps to transform from one form to another. So this new form of leadership can bring peace in this transformation way that elevates the vibrations of the whole humanity, the planet, and the universe. That is why the leader of the future is a person with the power of positive transformation. This is a person who has not only charisma and knowledge, but also a person who is at a high level of evolution of the inner world. Such a leader does not set himself the task of gaining power for the sake of power. Such a leader does not lead people only by creating and following laws and ideas, but such leader also reveals in people the potential for self-realization and inner growth. A leader with the power of positive transformation sets himself the task of creating a fair, harmonious, happy world around himself and those around him. However, there is one condition here. If a leader strives to change the world with a positive factor, then first of all, it is necessary to learn how to build the inner peace. For this, it is necessary to stop any war within oneself, both against others and against oneself. It is possible to end the war within oneself by just realizing that everything that happens around us is a reflection of our inner state. If there is conflict and drama within us, then negative events unfold around us. Faced with negative events, we can understand that it was inside us that attracted this event, provoked a negative reaction from others. This is a huge amount of the internal work, especially when we talk about transformational leaders. In order to become transformational leader, in my view, we don't have to set ourselves really big global goals at the beginning. Of course, it's important to always go to a high goal, but we can start from small goals. For example, one can set at least the closest goal to live in peace with yourself, with your family, friends, colleagues, your surrounding environment, communities, becoming for them a kind of transformational leader, or not kind of, just a transformational leader. It is important to work on the inner peace also through accepting yourself, your past life, and those around you as they are, without judging them. After all, everyone is at different stages of their own evolution. Each one grows in different conditions. Each one receives a different education. We cannot be similar. We are as we are, but we can contribute to one good goal by all our skills and all our talents. We just need to remember that the only one who built the peaceful world within himself can help others. In the meantime, the universal common values help building the inner and outer world. These are the universal laws of morality, dignity, love, wisdom, hard work, responsibility. It is important to understand that our future is influenced not only by our environment, but also the way we think, we speak, and we act. These are three components that are in many philosophical teachings. They shall be aligned. What you think, what you say, and what you do shall be aligned between themselves. Therefore, the world we have is the product of our thoughts, which become words, intentions, and finally actions. We have thoughts of fear. If we have thoughts of fear, the result will be fear and violence. If we have thoughts of love, the result will be peace and harmony around us. We are creators of our own reality. That is why we have to take care of what we think, what we say, and what we do, because on this also depends the survival of our species on the planet, and the planet itself, of course. Mother Earth today is sick because we throw away our mental garbage and our physical garbage. Mother Earth is charged with negative energies because many continue to believe in the power of weapons, intimidation, of fear, of fight. Sometimes people speak about fighting for human rights. Yes, it's good to fight for human rights, but it's not fighting, it's protecting human rights. If you even include the word fight, That means there is a war inside of a person who fights against against something. But fighting against something does not bring transformation. That is this trick of the transformational leadership. It shall be alchemistry. It shall not be a fight. It shall be transformation. Transformation at first stage, for example, to stop fighting, but protecting the human rights. And secondly, then try to learn others to the extent they want. Of course, we shall not interfere into others' evolutionary steps. The first contamination, in my view, that we must transform on the earth and within the humanity in our societies is the contamination of fear, the contamination of hate, the contamination of exclusion and separation. Before contamination, we had love, we had empathy and kindness. That is our essence. Today's leadership paradigm shall be changed. It is obsolete. The time has come for us to embark on the path of return to our true being, to our pure and peaceful soul. And this first and utmost refers to transformational leadership. The solution that we can build together is to purify our thoughts and actions, to evolve from inside, and we will see the effects here and throughout the universe. We are still on time. We have learned that from those who had the courage to turn fear into love, resentment into forgiveness, war into peace. I invite you today from the bottom of my heart to become real positive transformation leaders, starting from your closest environments and up to the large scale. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's such a powerful message, really, and so profound. And I hope that all of us feel tremendous amount of love and goodness in our hearts right now, which we can radiate to make this world a better place through this process of transformation and leadership that you so brilliantly articulated for us. Much to process. Thank you very, very much. We're very grateful. I'll request Anna, please.
Thank you so much. That was very, very powerful. As Ash said, I really liked how you spoke about evolving inside and what it takes to become a positive leader. Now, I would like to present Garry Jacobs, the CEO and President of the World Academy of Art and Science. Garry Jacobs is an American-born writer, social thinker, researcher, and consultant on economic and social development and business management, focusing on strategies to promote full employment, equitable and sustainable development for all. He is president and CEO of the World Academy of Art and Science and heads the Academy's projects with the UN on global leadership in the 21st century. He's also the chairman of the board and CEO of World University Consortium, leading efforts to develop a new paradigm for higher education and involve a transdisciplinary science of society. He is the author of 2 management books, A Report of the UN, A Spiritual Novel, and more than 100 articles on peace, economy, education, governance, human rights, society, and psychology. Welcome, Garry. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna, very much. And thank you, Ash, for inviting me to this wonderful event.
Thank you.
I know your father, Pachi, this is what he wants, and you make him happy by this, and I feel him with us today. He was a good friend and colleague in the World Academy, and this is exactly what we need. And my thanks to Ekaterina for a beautiful presentation that takes the breath away. All I appreciated, but what I liked the most about what she said was the message was very clearly that leadership is not what we do, it's what we think and we feel. I'm, as Anna said, an American, but she didn't tell you the most important part. I've spent most of my adult life in South India, where I'm speaking from now, and where I've learned that doing is not the key to accomplishment and fulfillment in life. It's how we do it and the feelings with which we do it. When I think of transformational leadership, we have leaders, we've always had leaders, and we have leaders of all types. Some of them are leading us forward, and I don't have to mention names, but some of them are leading us back also. And also they get the name of leadership. So when I think of transformational leadership, the word has a connotation to it that the difference between the ordinary leadership and the transformational leadership is we're trying to do it consciously. We're trying to be conscious in the future rather than repeat the habits, the mistakes, the values, the perpetuating the institutions of the past. And transformational leadership means instead of this long, slow process, which we've been going through for centuries, it's not a new thing, we have the possibility of radically accelerating change. And that acceleration only starts inside, it starts with our consciousness. And the first part of that, I was privileged to meet Ekaterina's mentor, Mikhail Gorbachev, when he was just after he stepped down as president. I knew good friends of his, and we worked together in conferences. And that's a wonderful model, a wonderful example of inspiring leadership of a man who dared to dream of radical change. And the interesting thing about it was I was working in the Eastern Europe, in fact, in the Soviet Union during that period, the 2-year period from 89 to 92, really, when the world just turned inside out. And it's very interesting because really nobody saw it coming. Nobody saw it coming except the person who was initiating it. And I'm not sure that he saw everything coming either. But that was one of the great lessons to me from transformational leadership. Our minds, our physical minds, see what's right in front of us, what exists already. Except for imagination and aspiration, we don't really have a faculty to imagine how different things can be, how soon they can be it. And that's one of the qualities, the critical qualities of transformational leadership, to believe that radical change is possible in spite of all the obstacles. And that's a lesson that can be learned. When we think about leadership, we usually think about people, and certainly leadership is in its essence human beings. But it's not just the key, wonderful, magnificent, rare individual for leader. I don't think we can or should be waiting for somebody to come and save us anymore. And if only we had a Lincoln or a Gorbachev or a Washington or whoever, or Mandela or Gandhi, whoever it is on your list of favorites. I think leadership is a process that can be learned. And it starts, Ekaterina gave so much rich advice, I won't repeat it, but it starts here. It starts with the way we think and the way we feel. It starts with our aspirations more than anything else. What I've learned is the most important determinant of what we're going to accomplish in life is not what we know, is not the resources we have, it's not even the opportunities we have, it's the aspiration we have. The aspiration has the power to create circumstances, has the power to bring the opportunities that we need. So it really is a psychological or a spiritual or a consciousness process. Leadership comes in many different forms. Ideas can be powerful leaders. I'm a member of Club of Rome, and 1972, the book Limits to Growth has had a profound impact on the thinking of humanity. The Inconvenient Truth, the 50 years or 30 years later, Al Gore's phrase, an idea can mobilize, release energy, tap aspirations, and channel our energies in new directions. Values, to me, the most, and that's what Ekaterina was talking about, values are the most powerful lever we have. It's not technology, it's not money, it's not people. The power of values to generate impact, to mobilize, release our energy, to create positive circumstances, it's a wonder in itself. We've seen ideas like the Me Too or Black Lives Matter traveling around the world. I'm a child of the 60s, not born in the 60s, much earlier. I'm just at the end of the Second World War. But I was growing up at Berkeley. I was at college at Berkeley during the time of the student protests, the youth protests, which began there. That was a freedom of speech for on the campus, and then anti-war, and then the civil rights and every other thing. We didn't leave anything out. And then spread all over America. And in 2 years, 4 years, it spread all over the world to cities around the world, even behind the Iron Curtain. When I visited Prague in 1968, the Prague Spring, I saw the flames were alive there as well. So ideas are really powerful. Aspiration and values are really powerful, but they're not enough. And that's what I really wanted to dwell on for a few minutes is, how do we take the energy released by our aspiration, by the values, by the commitment that we feel, and how do we convert it into results? And there's where the other side of the equation comes to, the objective side. It's something we call in management, that's my field, organization. And that world organization reminds too much of bureaucracy and structure and systems and discipline and all. And that's not what I mean by the word. I mean, organization is the thing by which we channel our energy to be effective. And my great hope for the future is that your generation, the young generations today, have created a new type of organization that simply didn't exist when I was growing up. We didn't even understand the significance of a network. I mean, we had television networks and things like that. But the idea of the lateral connectivity of people and the power of that lateral connectivity, the whole world has to be transformed in terms of the types of organization we have. And to me, one of the critical issues is, how do you, the next generations, show us? We've got, our organization is still based on nation states. 75 years after the founding of the UN is still run by nation states who are using an institution for their competition with each other or for their vested interests against each other. That organization as it is never going to lead the world for transformation. We need a different type of organization. So one thing that strikes me is, I'm just going to take a few minutes because I know we're short of time, is one thing we don't have today is we don't really have a voice for humanity. We talk about, and the UN people talk a lot about we the people, but who are we the people and what do we the people think? You know, when there are election polls in the United States, which were happening every day, everywhere, the average polling is of 1,000 people. And based on 1,000 people in a population of 300 million, they tell you what they think is going to happen. Oops. But what about at the global level? We rarely get a survey of more than 25,000 or 50,000 people to know, what do people think? So one of the things we'd like to see in the World Academy is to create a platform where you, civil society, youth, can link together and exchange your ideas and find out how much you really have in common. Because having lived on the other side of the globe and spent so many years trying to understand a very different society than my own, I found out the outsides are very different, but the insides are fundamentally the same. And I think we need that. We need that awareness. We need to get that sense of a common identity. And in our conference, we're going to talk about some ideas to do that. So that's one thing. Secondly, working in an NGO myself, and a number of NGOs, 4 or 5 different NGOs, I know the tendency of organization, whether you're a company competing or a nation or an NGO, is we take care of ourselves. After all, we've got to get money, we've got to get support, we've got to do something and all, and the world is too complicated. But the real thing we need now is not more organizations that are self-satisfied or trying to do something good, as important as that is. It's organizations that want to open their doors and windows and work together. We need really lateral networks that span the globe. I'd say more than that, we need social movements. And what's encouraging is, for the first time really powerfully since the 60s, we see the social movements going. And we've got to find a way to support them and multiply their value and release their energy, because the leaders today, with the best of intention, they're so confined by the structures and the vested interest and the powers. There's one thing the leaders cannot deny, and that's when the people rise, when the people demand, when the people insist on change. The power is with the leaders because we give it to them. The power is with the governments because we subordinate ourselves to them. And this is the generation to realize the power is with you. The power is with your values, your aspirations, your commitment, and your determination. And the world will change when we really, really want it and insist on it changing and not wait for the older generation to come around and be reasonable. I think we've shown pretty well where that leads when we wait for rationality. And finally, I think that the UN, probably you know already that this year the UN conducted a survey for the UN 75th anniversary. And they came up with a marvelous set of conclusions by polling over 1 million people. Probably something that you and I could have told them right away without going around the world and asking so many people and spending a lot of money. We need a multilateral system in which the civil society organizations, and I believe especially, not in also, but especially the youth, we need a place in that organization. We still have the structure of 75 years ago. We've got to find, and I give all credit to the Secretary General. President Guterres, or Secretary Guterres, really believes that we need to restructure this and give a real voice to civil society. We're a member of ECOSOC. There are about 3,000 organizations in the world, I think, that have that privilege. But I can tell you, we're looking for a hole to get in from outside. We need a change in the structure. And the UN, they're asking for it now. They're looking for it now. And our project on global leadership in the 21st century, we're looking for ideas on how we can help restructure the multilateral system to let humanity in. Not let somebody help us or do the things for us, but let us in so you and we, the people, can make the difference. I thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm very eager to hear from others in the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. That was really, really an important message, and I hope that all of us will take away that, what lies here within and that goodness in coming together offers us the potential of really creating the world that we want for ourselves. And it's time, it's an opportunity we have now, which perhaps didn't exist in the past. So I think it's really a fantastic message. I want to thank you very, very much for sharing that. And with that, I'd love to now welcome Professor Mila Popovich, who is the founder of Evolving Leadership, and importance of transformational leadership among youth is the focus of a lot of Professor Mila Popovich's work, and her voice on the emerging global standards and ethical leadership in the fields of science and technology, education, economy, and democratic systems is one that's strong and extremely credible and an expert perspective that we'll have an opportunity to hear today. She's the founder also of the work that is focused on consultancy and business within social leadership. She's the chair of the nominations committee at the World Academy of Art and Science, and the director on the board of the World University Consortium. Professor Popovich is an associate expert at the European Commission and is appointed the head of research and development on global leadership in the 21st century, a joint project by the United Nations Office at Geneva and the World Academy. So with that, I'd love to say a big warm welcome to Professor Mila Popovich, and we're very excited to have you here and to be able to hear you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a thrill to be here with everybody to listen to these wonderful words of inspiration and wisdom, but also be in the presence of youth that have proven themselves, and they've proven they know how to do this. They know how to lead from the deepest of their own inspiration and aspiration, I should say. So I am, first of all, very thankful to Protect Our Planet movement and the work of Dr. Ash Pachauer and the entire network of incredible leadership, youth leadership all over the world, seeded by his father, Dr. Pachauer, and our dear friend and colleague, but also continued through this incredible leadership of Ash and the entire network of leaders, some of them who are present today. I've been present at multiple World Sustainable Development forums and thrilled to be here today with you. So thank you very much, and thank you for entrusting me to speak on this topic. I have heard incredible talks from His Excellency Horta, from dear friend now and collaborator Ekaterina Zagladina, and of course my mentor and our leader at the World Academy, Garry Jacobs. What I've heard is primarily focused on something I would like to highlight, on the quality of human decision. And we have heard before from His Excellency Horta speaking of how do we end up in the situation where entire countries become dumping grounds for industrialized and the so-called developed countries. That makes you question what development means. Then we've listened to Ekaterina speak about values and the quality of human decision based on higher values, and the importance to make those decisions now, and who it is that we are being now, and how we plan to go forward. And it's so important to be also going forward to the question and the focus of conscious evolution, which Garry Jacobs spoke about, to consciously decide what it is that we want to have, do, and be in order to go forward. So my particular focus today will be to slightly zoom out and lay ground for the basis of this kind of thinking, acting, organizing, and developing that has become the reason we have gotten to this point at the state of emergency, hoping for a grand emergence of higher values to lead us forward and for us to take better action based on a higher quality of our decisions. So speaking of the foundational thinking and reasoning of why we are where we are today, I wanted to point out a particular notion and a particular way of acting and organizing that is based on biosocial conflict. That has been actually the way we've been thinking, acting, organizing, and modeling development. To be pitching ourselves against life, to be fighting against life, as Ekaterina so poignantly said, is suicidal, absolutely suicidal. To be extracting value from life without adding to life and aligning ourselves with life-supporting principles is suicidal, is violent and suicidal. To be basing our notion of progress and profit on biosocial conflict from that kind of extraction and violation of nature, our own nature, nature of others, and the nature as the entire ecosystem, as our home, is absolutely nonsense, and it's suicidal. So to unhook this biosocial conflict and to understand where we are starting from, and the fact that we have based an entire model of civilizational development, of growth, economic growth, of political development and progress on the biosocial conflict, is apparent, apparently, and it has been apparent that it's been suicidal and it's taken us to where we are at now. So what kind of quality of human decision can we exercise and demonstrate at this threshold, at this absolutely critical and pivotal moment in our development, where we have seen tremendous pressures from multifaceted crises and the trifecta of current pressures of the health crisis and the pandemic, of economic distress, as well as absolute climate emergency. What I have noticed, and I want to honor the leadership of youth today, and as Garry poignantly also said, spoke of historical development of this kind of transformational leadership that leads us now to this youth organizing of finest of kind. What we are seeing here, matching, counterpointing, and counterbalancing this trifecta of pressures, is the rise of social power, is the rise of social awareness and social power. And that has been exemplified and embodied at incredible speed, at such an accelerated speed, to match that kind of crisis. It has been exemplified by the youth leadership. I always point out that indeed, yes, we have the crisis of conventional leadership, but we have seen a remarkable embodiment of the excellence, of the democratization of excellence that the youth has embodied. And if you ever wonder what it takes to organize a peaceful movement and a peaceful demonstration anywhere, you understand the kind of quality of decision, refined organization, and sophisticated collective intelligence it takes to do that. What I've seen from the youth all over the world and from these civil society movements mobilized by the crises is absolutely mind-blowing social intelligence that can only converge at the highest level if we continue to go this way and to utilize the best quality of scientific and technological innovation to connect us better, rather to serve us better, in order to take us to the higher level of human decision. So in terms of transformational leadership, what it takes is this qualitative change to outgrow ourselves. And as our previous speakers and my colleagues and friends have spoken, it takes a kind of understanding how to transmute values, how to create conversion of values. And when I speak of values, I truly speak of a full scale of values by which we live, full scale of guidance system that we use for sense making and for better decisions. Those include beliefs by which we live, what matters to us, what determines the price of everything, as well as vision of what we want to have, do, and be and become. So how can we activate a certain process of conversion of values that will lead us to a better quality of human decision? What is the transformation process of the conversion of values of worth, inner, individual, and external and collective, of wisdom and well-being? And if we're guided by a simple understanding, well, simple understanding, but complicated action, if we want to take it, is that if we want to have and achieve higher results, we need to apply higher principles. And we have certainly heard that in the previous talks, where Ekaterina, for example, spoke about dignity, human rights, inherent human dignity, about love, and having the courage to speak about that at forums globally. We need to understand that those are not just sentiments and emotions. They're actually forces and guidelines by which we live, and which we certainly can apply at a higher level. So I will quickly just refer to a model of growth and development that we've all studied and understood, such as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where physiological and safety needs are in a upward facing triangle or pyramid of needs, right? Is leading to emotional fulfillment and the self-actualization impetus. And what we understood from that model of growth and development is that these need to be satisfied first. The physiological and security need to be satisfied first, and then emotional to lead us to a higher realization. Well, this kind of transformation or conversion of values is really interesting to look at when I look at youth of today. is that under pressures of crises, they've realized the opportunity and the urgency to act and become that way, that we have seen an inversion of values. We have seen an inversion of that triangle now leading downward in a double bind of creation, of involution and evolution. What I've seen demonstrated by you is that you realize that we actually are surviving on higher purpose, that our highest need is for self-actualization, and it's the basic now. It is no longer something that can gradually lead us there. We have evolved in a way that any kind of critical pressure on us can actually make us quickly realize that we actually live on ideals, and that ideals are highly, highly practical qualities. And I've seen that demonstrated by you. So anywhere from this model of understanding of development in an upward triangle, you have quickly, by action, even over the course of 1 year or the last couple of years, realized that we have to invert that value and start from the highest point and actually start from aspiration. That with the Maslow's order of hierarchy, it's the needs that are leading things, and you have guided us by aspiration, realizing that ambition is about doing and having, but aspiration is about becoming and being. And in order for us to truly survive and unhinge that biosocial conflict, we will actually have to urgently start from the highest of aspirations, and then by organization, as Garry pointed out, lead that downward and scale it out in all directions, mobilizing all collective social intelligence to lead us forward. So what are some of those values nurtured in a social context? They can have integrative power, not only integrative, but also multiply the effects of what we're doing on a fast track, because we have to go on a fast track. And that's why I want to honor this festival, telling us, reminding us again that the clock is ticking and we have to be acting from the highest point, from the finest of values now. So some of those values that we need to nurture is, first of all, an understanding that we are not a being and not monads that exist in a completely isolated bubble that has led us to this, through the sense of biosocial conflict, to devastations, to depressions, isolations that are very, very devastating. What we are realizing now that we are, even as individuals, interbeings, that we are on the path of co-becoming, and that we definitely are creating or need to be creating a world of in-belonging if we want to save ourselves from our own actions that we've developed so far. So in that sense, the development of the whole being with the consciousness of interbeing, of interconnectedness, of our bound identity, of interdependent evolution, inclusivity, is actually vital for the future of our species and the next stage of global civilizational development, of us becoming the planetary being collectively. So we need those qualities of finer properties to meet the challenges, to recognize the opportunities and enact the change at the higher level of order. And if we know that we have to develop a guidance systems for sense making, and what that guidance system needs to include is higher perspective, deeper knowing of self and the world and our co-belonging, finer sensing of what it needs, the action that needs to be taken, and an empathetic understanding of each other in the moment in which we're standing and living, as well as be driven by wanting to achieve broadest impact. So what I am trying to say is not that these are shoulds and ought to be. What I'm trying to say is that I've seen in the youth already this demonstrated and embodied, where I see our challenge is that we need to come together and scale up and scale out this kind of intelligence, this kind of organizational finesse, and this kind of genuine and genuinely driven ideals, aspirations, and values that you have projected and keep projecting into the world. So in terms of how, and quickly to round off, in terms of how, if we know the laws and apply the highest principles of correlation, the correlation of the inside and outside, of how we feel and think and how we act in the world and how they're correlated. The correlation and correspondence between different scales of human association and organization. Understand that there are, as I've spoken before, no inconsequential destinations in the world, and no small countries or undeveloped countries like His Excellency Horta spoke about, but that we are profoundly interconnected in the chain of being. Then we have another principle that we can apply. That is the principle of that conversion of values and inversion of where we start. So we might actually begin from a paradoxical place, of the highest place, in order to actually address our needs, because we are in a critical state. And most profoundly, that we are interconnected into interbeing and co-belonging and co-becoming. And I appreciate what you have demonstrated already in your leadership as transformational leaders yourselves. Honored to be amongst you.
Thank you so much, Mila. That was amazing. I think how you centered on values and how we need to be empathetic and that we are not isolated is key. And I would just like to emphasize that I really like that this session focused on leadership in general, because there's so many ways you can apply all this new knowledge, right? It's not only in climate leadership, but it's also maybe in the humans' rights movement and different things. So thank you so much for your words. I know we are running out of time, but I just wanted to ask if it's possible to do a really quick round of questions, maybe just ask 2 questions if you guys have time.
Would that be possible, or I know we spilled, but
So
would you...
You have time, we have time.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you so much. Anna, take it away, thank you.
Sure.
So there is a question from Joanna. She had to leave, and she said that this question is for Miss Ekaterina. The question is, during the crisis due to the pandemic, social, cultural, and sporting events did not take place. Schools have switched to online teaching system, and all this leads to the loss of significant experience in creating the character of young people. What consequences will this have for future young leaders, and do you have any recommendations on how to mitigate them now?
That was from Giovanna.
I think each crisis is also an opportunity. It's like a phoenix bird. It dies and then it reburns. So each crisis also gives us an opportunity to sort of disappear in a situation, in a circumstance, just zero ourselves, and to see if we do the vector into the positive, if we use this situation in order to grow spiritually, to grow with a new experience. Once we open to this new experience, we go to another level of evolution, and we find that this is the best thing that could ever happen to us. I'm sorry to say this, I'm not speaking about the pandemics itself, I'm speaking about crisis situations. So in this situation, I think the most important part is that it's a great chance for young people to look in the inner world, because we are very distracted daily by social media, by advertisement, by going into the shops. We are distracted by many things that have no importance to our inner selves. So I think it's a great chance. That's how I use it for myself. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of available webinars on self education, and I think on the contrary, young people or any person can find him or herself. This is a great chance to find themselves rather than being lost. We are lost in societies because we associate with those societies. We think what we are reflected in the society. It's not like this. You go inside yourself, you find yourself. So through just take some courses or read some books. There are great thinkers. Mahatma Gandhi and others. You can just refer to many, and I think Garry or Mila can also give you some recommendations. They are pretty much advanced in these areas as well. And of course, Ash, I think he is very much advanced. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I thank you for that. I think that's a wonderful message, and we'll make sure that we share that with Giovanna as well, who had to leave unfortunately, but we'll definitely make sure to share that. I do want to request Camila, I believe, had thought that she wished to share as well. Please, Camila. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, it's been amazing hearing everything that these professionals and adults in our eyes have said before me. It really gets me thinking and questioning myself whether my path has been the correct one and how am I going to better myself. And I think this is not a thought in my own head. It's really in all of ours on how are we going to leave this session and become better. So I really wanted to talk about, from the perspective of the youth, how I have seen and how I've experienced impact of activism, and particularly youth activism. I have had the pleasure of meeting with a lot of youth activists from all over the world, and what I've seen and what I've observed in be it on the streets striking or inside negotiations, is that the youth has a very particular mindset on doing things. And I hope that you have seen it too. We have learned that the only way for us to actually make impact, talking about from the viewpoint of a minor, is through not using a preacher speech, which has been called upon me by Ms. Kay a couple of months ago, that we the youth try to focus our activism on change through actions. So the way that we use the macro and micro chains of activism is not through concrete actions in ourselves, as we do not have that sort of hard power. It's rather through our own actions, how they impact others, and how even the tiniest actions, even such as, oh, you know what, I've become vegan, and how those individual actions have big impact. And I'm not talking about, some people have always told me how can I be more sustainable in my own home? Well, changing light bulbs and water and whatnot. And that is something that I always like to address, because for me, that is not enough. And on a big scale, those small actions are not enough. However, talking about the impact they have on other people, how that transformational leadership meant in a person-to-person exchange, how that those actions inspire others to do the same, and how that on a big scale does impact. We have been talking about one of the big things that I've actually taken a lot of notes on is the historical evolution of youth activism, and how it has gone unnoticed for many, many centuries, and how today the youth is reclaiming that voice to bring our needs, our wants to the front of, well, now particularly the climate crisis. And I've seen a lot of youth activists going not only into climate, but also into human rights. We have seen it with, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement, and how this leadership has impacted all over the world. What I can tell you from my experience is that every single action, every individual action, be it, even if it's just a personal growth, trying to grow further, it does impact. It impacts on a big scale. I always try to bring the model, the ecological model, the Bronfenbrenner model, which talks about the growth of society from an individual level to a macro national level, going from the individual itself to our governments, in our institutions, and how that impact is seen with activism, is seen with the youth, and that exchange of the youth and experts and stakeholders that has to happen. We have to break those walls between, one of them being the language barriers, between experts and people like me that perhaps don't have that knowledge on several topics. So breaking those walls that has been happened in the past years, we have tried to break those molds, break those barriers that have stopped us from really raising our voices, as we have seen, for example, in COP25, that was some considered the COP of the youth. We made our voices heard, and the way we did that was not in, well, some were big demonstrations, but what I saw had the most impact was when one person joined a negotiation and was there and just said a couple of phrases explaining why they were there. And that was one of the most powerful impacts that there were, because we are slowly going into the negotiations and leaving the streets to go into the hard power and the smart power kind of aspects of this action. So that's what I want to say, to really understand that kind of idea of small actions into big actions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Camila. Many thanks. It's a very important thought, and I think that there's maybe time for one quick question, and then we'd love to get a picture together as well before we close out. And so I'm going to ask Anna. Anna, did you want to pick this up, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure. So it'll be a bit of a mixed question. So this one, there's right now in Mexico, there has been a lot of violence against women, and I don't know if you've heard of it at an international level, but it's become a really big problem. And I would like to know your input on how you can lead peacefully such a violent issue. You know, many times the people who have been affected have tried to do it peacefully, but it's been hard because the government doesn't listen. So I would really like to know your input on that. And then we also have a question from Ivan that I think could go into that answer, which is about how you can live to your true potential, how each leader can find its true potential and act on it. Thank you.
And the question is for everybody, or?
Yes, I would like to ask Garry if possible, but if anyone wants to give inputs, it's fair.
Well, it's a really important question, and thank you, Anna. I don't have a solution to that, but I have two things I'd like to say. One is, the closer we get to really making a change, the more the resistance will come up, and the more violent and vulgar it will be. And that explains a lot of what's going in the United States today. Many people, Americans like me, we tend to think we're going backwards 50, 100 years. What happened to all the progress? But I think that's not really the truth. I think the truth is that a good part of the society is really ready to go forward, and that raises the deep alarm and resistance of the other side. That's not a practical answer to how do you protect yourself in the short run, but I think it's really important to know this is the desperation. This is the act of desperation. And let's face it, women have been persecuted and prosecuted for millennium. There's nothing new about this, but it's also true women have more rights today and freedom today and privilege today than ever before in history. And I think this is the last breath of the opposition, of a dead world that has to die. That's an outer thing. The second thing, which I believe totally, and it's very difficult, and I try to practice it myself, is when we react, and I react all the time to the absurd things that happen and the vulgarity that we see and the outrage and the falsehood and everything. When we react, we energize the opposition. I'm not talking about when we act. I mean when we react psychologically. When we get angry, or when we get afraid, when we get disturbed, when we get disillusioned, we energize the very thing that we're trying to overcome. That psychological energy, that's what, I'll mention it because you'll all understand, that's Trump's genius. He provokes outrage and he lives on the energy of that outrage. If the world simply started ignoring him, he would deflate to a 10-pound baby and forget. But the media and everybody else energize him. He loves he'll do anything to get a reaction from people because it makes him, oh, I'm important. You're taking me seriously. Even when I say nonsense, you're taking me seriously. So this is difficult. I know because I practice it. I try to practice it and I fail 100 times a day. But the power comes by our capacity not to react. Don't confuse action and reaction. I'm using the word reaction in a very particular way. Not to be disturbed inwardly. And to put it more positively, and it's even more difficult, if nothing can really disturb your cheerfulness, you will overcome anything. Whatever the opposition, whatever the difficulty, if you refuse to allow it to disturb the cheerfulness inside, you're sure of overcoming it. And the moment we fall into the prey of being sorry, depressed, sorry for ourselves, or angry at somebody else, we lose the power of our psychological energy. And these to me are deep lessons that I've been learning and still learning, because it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to be able to practice it. But I've seen when I can do that, it has amazing power to change the outer situation. I hope it's helpful.
Extremely helpful.
I will just add quickly to it, quickly. Trying to go by some laws and principles that I can share with you that Garry already shared. So I will support what he's saying by correlated natural and psychological law, right? So healing that biosocial conflict, I'm staying true to my talk, trying to say, how do we speak about physics and metaphysics in one? So what if I told you that low vibration with high intensity is very hurtful, okay? But high vibration with low intensity goes through the surface, goes furthest and transforms. So that's what basically Garry's saying. When you have low vibration, you should not, first of all, feel bad. As Garry also mentioned, we all feel it. We're all given to feel all electric currents, right? We are generators of electricity. We're conduits, right? Conductors of electricity. I'm speaking scientific language to tell you that there's a correlation between physical forces we study and psychological forces that we're conduits for. So be conscious of what you are being conductor for, meaning if there's a low vibration with high intensity, it's very hurtful and violent, and it'll smash even the conductor of it. But if you go at a higher vibration with low intensity and keep that reactivity inside through silence, through non-action, at the moment when you feel it, do not lash out at yourself, because guess what? That's self-destructive, low vibration. Just sit with it. Let it go through you. Recognize that it's nonetheless the energy, and dedicate that energy to a higher power that can actually recycle at the highest level. Yes. And as far as women are concerned, my comment would be, you can imagine what that comment would be, right? And there are all kinds of violences that I've witnessed, carry in my DNA, as well as personally endured. Anywhere from, physical abrasiveness, all the way to discrimination, all the way to the current system that overwhelms the woman, exhausts the woman, makes her second guess herself, right? But we are seeing younger women right here and on the global level that are rising as that offspring of that wonderful outrage, not anger. Anger is aimless. Outrage is this as self-generating energy. And they have come with such profound sense of purpose and sense of self-direction. But I will say one more thing about it. I have never seen such tremendous devastation of our men and profound understanding of ways in which they have been used as labor bodies, as war bodies, dispensed of, devalued, and destroyed. And this is the time when we will go beyond simplistic distinction between genders and sexes. We will go beyond simplistic victimizations. We will go towards integration and something that is authentically human of the 21st century.
Thank you. Wow.
Wow.
That's really really amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, and your voice and your body language and your a message just had all the energy too. So thank you so much for sharing that. I wondered if Miss Ekaterina had a final message for us too, and we'd love to hear you if there's anybody wishes.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add to what Mila and Garry said. I think there was a question how to open the potential, and there was another question I saw in the chat that how to start a peaceful leadership and share goodness in other countries. I think this is exactly the point of self-realization. I just want to go to a higher level, not to give you now the tools of how to go into a country with a humanitarian action. It's how you feel about this. It's what we think, what we say, and what we do. First, thinking, it means, and as Garry also mentioned, it's the important element is what you feel, what you are. Do you want to go to be to save the world or to do goodness in other countries because it's convocation of your heart, or because you think doing goodness is only by way of going somewhere? It's the point is that we are all born different, and please, I just want really to say to each one leader present here, it's not necessary that you are becoming a leader. It's not necessary that you are doing environmental issues or human rights or whatever. You need to think what you are, because frankly, we are born. Some are really great entrepreneurs. They can bring to the world great social entrepreneurship. Some are great doctors. They can save lives. So we shall not be drawn by these patterns of the society saying this is good, and this is good, and being an entrepreneur is not good. No, you can be a good entrepreneur. And even as Dalai Lama says, we need more even storytellers, good storytellers, even artisans, whoever, but you need to look into your side, into yourself here, or to your heart. Just go deep into your heart. I don't know, take a meditation time and just think who you are. And then if you do your mission, your true mission aligned with your heart, the universe will help you to do this. And you will find tools, resources to go to other countries, to do goodness to people. Or if you are an entrepreneur, you will know how to do it best for you, your family, your environment, community, the world. So good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
With finding your potentials.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been, a deeply moving session. And I just want to say that I know I'm reading all the messages, and I can feel the energy here. But I know this room is filled with a lot of love and goodness. And I know that we're in a virtual space right now, but I know wherever you are, you probably can feel that love, and a big hug too. no matter what the physical distance, because right now we're very connected and we can really we're very touched, very deeply moved by the messages. So I just wish to convey my deepest and most profound gratitude. And I know that all of us here have much to work on, much to process, and much to spread, and that will be all good things. So thank you ever so much. For me?
Here's to popping up.
Thank you.
Grow
Thank
up,
you so
pop
much.
up. That's our new motto.
Pop up is right. Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely brilliant. Big, like they say, from my heart to yours, and I pray to your heart. So thank you so much for all that you've shared, your wisdom and enlightenment. We're deeply grateful, and we'd love to get a picture together and savor this moment forever. Thank you. Thank you. Let's sorry, Gary, you're saying.
Thank you. The invitation is wonderful to cherish. Pleasure to meet everybody and talk with you.
Thank you. Likewise, we're so grateful. I was just wondering if you can remove the spotlight, maybe we get a picture together, please.
We did. I took the snapshot.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right. So to lots of love. Thank you.
See you all again very shortly.
We so look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.